These were some hyper-violent guys, man. They were out there doing wrong. Since then, within a few weeks, 3 of them turned themselves in, and then over the course of the last 8 months or so, the other 4 have been captured. So, you know, yes, ma'am, we were very successful with the Crime Stoppers videos, and you know what? That door closed, and God opened another one. Yeah. So that's where I am now.
Well, I actually saw that Gremlins video. It was pretty badass. That was why I was like, we've got to get this guy on the show. That was so wonderful. But of course, you did talk a little tough in it, and some people were a little offended. They said that was a little too tough. How dare you speak to these hyper-violent criminals in a derogatory way? How did you feel about that?
Well, you know, you anticipate that, but you know, street talk is tough talk. And if you're a street cop talking to street criminals, then you use street language, and that's just reality, man. You know, we live in a society now that's you know, very protected, shall we say, insulated from the horrors of the street, you know, by and large. And so you get this politically correct, you know, crap from the world about, you know, please don't hurt anybody's feelings, you know, while they're shooting families in the head. You know, this is the nature of the country we live in now. I just don't participate in it. I will not participate in gossip. It's the cheapest form of human communication, and I will not participate in political correctness because it's a venom, man. It's a cancer that's destroying our country. We live in the United States of America. Our First Amendment guarantees our free speech. This is of course the foundation of our freedoms. It's a cornerstone of who we are and what we are, and yet we've allowed insidious forces to impose upon us the restriction of our speech and the restriction of our emotions in some manner as if they're right and we're wrong. Well, listen, every one of my fellow Americans, regardless of ideology, color, creed, political affiliation, social background, ethnicity, we all have earned the right by the blood that's been shed by patriots, by the heritage of our family. Every single one of our families has woven the thread of our flag. We stand in the shade of the glory of that one flag that's been woven by an entire nation of people of every imaginable color and creed, and we have the right to speak our mind. Right. So I'm just not participating in political correctness. Right. When I go to Washington, I'm not participating in that game up there either. They're gonna find out.
Well, the nation is obviously ready for brave people to stand up and speak out like that. Now, speaking of tough talk, what did you think about Obama's response to all of these fallen officers getting shot in the street in Obama's America?
As a constitutionalist, I have deep respect for the position of Commander-in-Chief. You'll rarely find me saying a disparaging word in private or public about the man that holds that office. I've been continually disappointed in the message and the rhetoric that has come out of my White House, because that White House doesn't belong to President Obama, nor did it belong to President Bush, nor any before them. It belongs to the American people, and those in D.C. and the Beltway, the career politicians that have seized power in Washington, need to hear Lima Charlie that the people are about to take this country back. So you ask me how I feel about some of the things he said, ma'am, it would require me to say ugly things. I'm just not going to say that about my president. I have been, to my heart and soul, very disappointed. Just at the time when he had such an opportunity for leadership, man, from his unique position as our first African-American president, he really, really could have made things better. But that certainly hasn't happened, has it?
And obviously taking that opportunity to push for more gun control. Where do you stand on that?
Well, our Second Amendment clearly defines, you know, gun control. Listen, it wasn't even until the 60s that guns were regulated at all. In the 50s, a child, any child, could buy a gun from any seller if daddy sent him with the money. It wasn't until the 60s we even had serial numbers mandated on guns. I grew up in the 70s, went to a large rural high school. Every vehicle in the parking lot, mostly on teachers and student side, was a pickup truck, and most every vehicle had a rifle or a shotgun in the back glass, and nobody got shot. you know, the availability of guns in our country has been more restricted over the last several decades, where you're starting to see these mass shootings and whatnot. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on, man? It's a breakdown of the family. It's a breakdown of our culture. And personally, I think it's our national shame of how we address mental illness in our country. We have a history of failure in that. Now, I don't know of any country that handles it right. I'm just talking about America. And you know, you always look into the background of these mass shooters, and those are the guys pulling the triggers. And if you look at their history, there's always some kind of mental, you know, challenge that they face that's been handled with mostly with pharmaceutical drugs. That Christ knows what's in that stuff. And I just don't think that restriction of gun rights and ownership rights for guns, or restriction of the type of guns that we have. We already have many restrictions. You know, we are certainly well regulated, are we not?
Right.
I mean, there's people talk about military weapons. You know, American civilians can't own tanks, and we can't own calibers over 50 caliber. You know, we in order to own an automatic weapon, where by that I mean you pull the trigger one time and more than one bullet comes out, you have to pay for a very expensive license. It's an extensive background check, takes months, and then you have to maintain that license, which is expensive every year, which is why very few Americans have that. So we're already heavily restricted. The shootings that we're looking at right now are not because of guns. It's because of the people holding them, and perhaps of a systematic failure in our nation to deal with mental illness. That's where I stand on that.
Here we have Alex on Media Row at the RNC. Alex reaches the Young Turks YouTube booth and is instantly met by a group of disheartened, arrogant anchors harboring a clear loathing of all things Alex Jones.
Alex Jones is right about a few things. So about the NSA spying, etc. He was right about that. We were right about that. The problem with Alex isn't what he starts out with. It's where he ends up. Okay? He'll take some things that are true, and then next thing you know, by the end of the conversation, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are killing everybody. What? And then the lizard people take off their masks and they go, whoa. And so there's some goodness to Alex Jones, no question about it, and a lot of things that I appreciate. But one of our listeners sent us a clip where he's going ballistic. He's going crazy, right?
How are you guys doing?
We're doing okay.
You like all our Hillary for President shirts everywhere?
No, I kind of despise it.
What shirts are they?
I haven't seen any of them.
Young Turks anchor Jimmy Dore appears to announce the attack that is about to transpire.
It's Alex Jones! Oh my God!
Finally, Cenk Uygur, the main host of the Young Turks, loses it.
Big no-no that Roger Stone's banned.
All right, you want to take my show over? I'll take your show over.
Go ahead.
Okay, you know what? Who does this kind of shirt? First of all, a sick guy. Second of all,
Clinton's not a rapist, folks.
Chaos ensues as Cenk is triggered by a Bill Clinton t-shirt with the word rape on it, and then the Young Turks host proceeds to unleash his vitriol for all things Republican on Roger Stone.
Papers. Oh, yeah? And you're a sick dude, Roger Stone.
You assault me all the time. You never give me a chance to respond.
Yeah, I should give you a hatchet job, to respond. You're a sick man, Roger Stone. No, you're the world's biggest liar. Didn't you admit that you lied about Elliot Spitzer? Didn't you already admit that, you piece of crap? You piece of crap. And first of all, Alex, this ain't your show, okay? And Roger, it certainly ain't your show.
Afraid to debate him?
Okay, afraid? Are you kidding me? No. Bring it back on. Bring it back on. Who the cutting? Bring it back on!
Anna Kasparian even blurts out fat-shaming insults at Alex as Alex is swarmed by the Young Turks crew.
Attention! Get off the stage! You got it off! Get off the... Yeah, you do! Don't touch my camera!
Saudi Arabians are
Paul Joseph Watson writes, towards the end of the confrontation, Anna Kasparian is caught on tape yelling at Alex Jones, "Get off the stage, you fat..." Aside from the fact that Jones is virtually the same size as Kasparian's boss Jank, her insult completely contradicts her previous conviction that people should not be shamed over their weight.
I can relate to it big time because when I was about 4 years old, my dance instructor told me that I was overweight. And as a 4? Yes, and that stayed with me for the rest of my life. Now, I don't fit the results of the study. I'm not in an unhealthy body weight. At least I don't think I am. But you know, it does scar you, and you have issues with food and eating for the rest of your life.
First of all, let me explain something, all right? Okay,
Guys, can you
okay, hold on. We're against Saudi Arabia, you dumbass! We talk about that all the time!
Oh, really?
We talk about that all the time!
Get off the water.
What do you think, the lizard people are in charge?
No.
Is that what you think?
Hey, you're pissed because we're kicking your ass.
Is that what you think?
You're the anti-liberal and you're pissed.
Bullshit!
Nice here.
You know what I care about? I care about the American people.
Good. You're the one flipping out. Anybody hurt? Come on, we don't do anybody hurt? I'm being nice.
Young Turks anchor Jimmy Dore on the left takes a drink and, like a frenzied llama, proceeds to spit in Alex's face and then shrinks back into the fray, giggling and celebrating his own lack of any semblance of manhood.
This is big. Hey, come on.
My stage.
That guy just spit in my face. Unbelievable.
What a cowardly little bitch. Yeah, get the out. Did you spit in his face? Right here. Did you spit in his face? Right here. Did you spit in his face? So I'm asking you, did you spit in his face? Because I see. Okay, fine.
Immediately following the assault on Alex, within roughly 30 minutes, all uploaded videos following the Young Turks debacle on the Alex Jones YouTube channel were shut down. And then the Young Turks crew immediately went on the defensive, belittling INFOWARS and Alex Jones.
So Alex Jones comes here. In the beginning, I wasn't mad at all. Okay, he's doing his grandstanding, and he's doing it because we have a much larger audience. So if he's containing his tiny, tiny audience, well, then he has more trouble reaching a broader section of Americans.
I cannot handle someone exploiting our show, capitalizing on our show, just to get eyeballs on him.
That's why he's a pathetic show that he has to come on to larger shows to get this audience.
This was Media Row at the RNC, hardly a controlled set at a media headquarters. The entire circus could have been avoided had the Young Turks crew had the equanimity and been even moderately professional and politely gotten to the bottom of and managed any misunderstanding. However, the Young Turks succeeded in a cowardly display of self-righteous, pretentious arrogance and avarice, so childish that once the dust settles, complete embarrassment is sure to find its way to their petty conscience. Or maybe not.
You dumbass! We talk about that all the time!
Oh, really?
We talk about that
John Bound for INFOWARS.com.
What do you think?
We're joined by a regular guest, although she hasn't been on for a while, Syrian girl who is a geopolitical analyst and contributor for the New Eastern Outlook, because, of course, we had this horrific video that came out a couple of days ago, which I actually watched in full. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do the same, where this young boy was beheaded by this rebel group backed by the Obama administration. It looked like this would have consequences for the US's involvement in Syria, but whether that's true or not remains to be seen. Syrian girl, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm glad to be back here. It's been a while.
It's been a while, but we've had this big news again in Syria this week. It's really come back into focus. Before we get into the aftermath of, how the media is twisting the narrative on this beheading, just walk us through this tragic sequence of events that led to the murder of this young boy in Aleppo.
I, commiserate with you because I also watched the horrifying video of this child getting beheaded and also laughed at by one of the CIA's moderate vetted rebels. And the sequence goes really back to 2011 and 2012 when many governments, not just the US government, but also NATO European governments, including France, started openly arming rebel groups. Hollande, he in 2012 openly said, yes, I'm arming these rebel groups in Syria. The CIA, apparently this particular group that did this beheading was CIA trained. And in March of 2015, the NATO-run media was complaining that Russia was bombing this group, CIA-trained, vetted, moderate rebel group. And the most interesting thing, in these last 3 years is that they've been telling us that there's moderates and there's terrorists. There's the moderate rebels that they're arming, which are vetted and very nice. And then there's the terrible, terrible